the edge of the city lived a small triumphal arch known as Arky Arch. He went to school with the other young inanimati to learn the lessons he would need to know when he grows up. But inanimati do not grow up like humans do. Some, like Arky, do become much larger and stronger, but others change more dramatically. A young mechanisti is a small mechanical device, but as it matures, it becomes a more complicated type of machine, not just a bigger one. For example, Arky's friends the Cog brothers dream of growing up to become a powerful engine. Just like you, they don't know what they will be when they are older. For inanimati children, growing up can bring dramatic changes as they become oriented towards the purpose that they must fulfill. Purpose is what motivates all inanimati, just like collaboration is the means by which they accomplish tasks and get things done. They don't have hands to hold each other, so they must cooperate to work together. They like to help because they feel purposeful when they do. The inanimati are a patient and solid species, happy to be useful and helpful in their own world without questioning what lies beyond the borders of reality that the triumphal arches guard. Yet, within their ranks were those who knew of the dual worlds and resented the wild, free ways of the animals with their ability to make and the eternal changing of the growing plants. An evil grew in their hearts, and from the great family of Architectus Gothicus came forth one who desired to dominate all forms of life, both animati and inanimati, if the key to crossing the void of consciousness that separates the two could be found. Golgothicus he was called, an enormous pointed arch of towering stone, rising higher than all other Gothic peaks, buttressed by his helper minions and endowed with the greatest glass rosone ever seen. Golgothicus ruled the frozen Northlands with an army of Arche Gothica, yet he dreamed of having more power, the power to construct, to make, to build like the humans can build, the power to change the purpose of inanimati, but without arms or hands, he, like all inanimati, could never create as humans do. For centuries it seemed to Golgothicus that he was doomed to continue his existence as an isolated king-arch in a far-off place, bending weaker minds to his will but frustrated by his inability to create new forms to do his bidding. Then, one fateful day, the heavens intervened. The skies opened, literally, and out of the dark depths of space, what seemed to be a meteor ripped through the clouds and impacted at the very base of Golgothicus with a mighty explosion that destroyed forests as far as the eye could see and left him standing in a crater a mile wide. Golgothicus was stunned senseless. The only thing that prevented him from collapsing was the unique angle of the concussion wave that hit him. In the rarest of coincidences, the force of the explosion broke exactly across the axis of his buttress. The combined strength of all his elements had kept him standing. When he regained his thoughts, he knew he had been changed somehow, but only when the rays of the sun broke through the smoke that hung all around him was it evident what had happened. The great rosone that Golgothicus carried below the groin of his spans had been warped and twisted by the force of the blow. Its glass panels distorted out of plane, and their colors shifted into unknown spectrums. As he flexed his great arching peak, the clouds of dust parted for a moment, and a flash of light streaked through the broken rosone, shattering the darkness as it changed to a brilliant beam of red light. Where it touched the ground in front of him, there occurred a blinding shower of sparks, and out of the still streaming clay, a pair of bricks were sintered into existence. They trembled before their master. Golgothicus slowly awoke to the realization that now he too had the power to make. His mind was overjoyed. How long had he dreamed of such a day? For eons Golgothicus remained in that crater, practicing his powers and blasting multitudes of bricks into rectangularity. Stupid things they were, of little use to him, unless he had assembled enough to work together, causing stacks to jump over themselves and arrange into dark facades called muri. Golgothicus was careful not to let his almost magical rosone be touched or damaged, lest the shape or colors return to their original purely decorative form. He could feel how delicate the setting of tracery had become, and with every blast of light he used to weld together the mud and clay into new bricks, he felt the glass wobble like a loose tooth. But he could not stop himself. The thrill of making was upon him. Soon he would be ready to lead his Arky Gothica against their traditional foes, the Arky Romani. But this time they would have a new and secret weapon at their side, the overwhelming numbers of bricks. Golgothicus dreamed of unleashing his new servants on the world, weaving huge muri across the lands to cut off isolated patches of inanimati, herding them with the swarms of bricks for Golgothicus to weld into new shapes for his sinister uses. The triumphal arches work as symbolic strongholds in both the worlds of man and those of the inanimati. They tower above the daily hum of life on their massive pillars of stone. Each master triumphal arch is entrusted with one of the coordinate nodes of the ocean of chronostic flux. Massive and impervious they may be, but when called upon to act, these master arches can transport themselves into other times and places with sheer concentration. All inanimati work together in the harmony of shared purpose. This is how they compensate for not having hands to grasp and make with. Master Arch Trajan is one of two particularly beautiful triumphal arches, standing for centuries at the side of the forum. His twin brother Titus serves at a similar post across the busy city. Trajan had heard of the uprising in the far north and rumors that the Gothic archers sought to unlock the gate between worlds of Ani and Inanimati. Voices spoke of a new sort of enemy, muri made of hordes of fanatical bricks. He'd hoped it was a problem that would remain remote in time and space, but he also was aware that no problem was ever kept at bay by wishful thinking. Trajan had come across many inanimati materials in his time, and was an expert in the various types of workstones, but never had he known the common brick to be turned to evil. Wild rumors were flying. Some said even a peaceful cornerstone that had lain dormant for years could be roused to uncontrolled aggression by one glance from the eye of the Gothics. Trajan thought of the secret mission he had proposed to the High Council of Grand Master Archers. He had hoped to go quietly alone to find the Gothic leader and confront him with the danger that lay in tampering with the peaceful divide between the worlds of plants, animals, and the inanimati. Trajan knew it was not the way the elders of the council preferred, but had argued that with stealth and speed he could reach the Gothic camp while they were still far away and find their leader secretly without raising the alarm. But the council had not followed his plan. The large triple-barreled Grand High Arcus Septimus Severus had instead ruled that calling up the military was the best approach. The old and lumbering Colosseo Maximus had equipped with a dozen legion of the finest Arky Romani and sent off to march north and confront the troublemaker head-on. The impressive sight of rank upon rank of round archers should be enough to cower the flimsy Gothics and their rabble of rubble, Septimus reasoned. Trajan was not so sure. Colosseo Maximus had now been gone too long without word, and other disturbances in the peaceful flux of time and space were beginning to make themselves felt. Trouble seemed to be all about him. A dome had collapsed unexpectedly in a small shrine in the west, seriously injuring some Mechanisti visitors. The news of another High Council meeting for all Master Archers was in itself a disturbing sign. He was sure it had to do with the recent disappearance of a large number of Corinthian columns who had been on a pilgrimage. Just imagining their fate as prisoners of the Gothics. "Psst, Trajan, you're looking the wrong way, big boy," a smoky female voice called to him from the darkness of a corner, jolting him back into awareness of the here and the now. It was Squinch, the curvy Byzantine niche he seemed to run into at the oddest of times. Squinch was a type of ubiquity, those features able to hang unnoticed for centuries, hiding silently between vaults and walls. So quiet and innocuous were these ubiquity that they acted as the eyes and ears of the master archers, reporting what they had seen, a network of spies throughout the city. "So, Master Trajan, preparing to go off to the council meeting?" "How did you know that, Squinch? I have just learned of the meeting myself." Trajan was aware of how useful the ubiquity were, but he also was a bit suspicious of the ease at which they acquired information, particularly when it concerned himself. "I don't anchor the roof of the gods just for the view, you know. I get around in my own way. To be a true ubiquity is to be everywhere, or at least to seem to." The triumphal arch was silent. Squinch shrugged, causing some plaster dust to fall. No matter where I come by my information, Master Trajan. The issue is what new knowledge you yourself bring to the meeting, and to that end I have something to offer you. Really? Said the Master Arch, lifting a cornice so he might better perceive the shadowy feature. What knowledge might that be? That the Gothics and their Muri are but 4 days' march from here, and that Heidentor, the Master Arch at Carnuntum, and Janum of Saint-Remy are the only ones of your kind that stand in their way. Great pillars of Hercules, exclaimed Trajan, this cannot be. And what of Colosseo Maximus and the legions of Arky Romani? From the dark corner where Squinch crouched, there came a small sigh of sadness. Of their fate no one has heard, she said, but it is rumored that the Gothics are carrying 100 Romani keystones before them to terrify anyone who would resist their might. Trajan was stunned. If such a mighty show of force as the legions of Arky Romani could be defeated, what hope lay in the efforts of the council? But there is more, whispered Squinch. The leader of the Gothics is trying to find something that came down from the skies. He has sent gargoyle scouts out looking for it to all corners of the globe. And what is it that he is looking for? Asked Trajan. Could this be something of value to bargain with? Only, that is, if they found it first, he realized. I am not sure. Something called a voodoo cannibal robot. Do you know what that is? One day Arky was on the playground practicing piling small stones into towers, she began, trying to make arches to connect them. It was his homework for that day. Every arch must know how they are made. What is the role of the keystone? How big is the span to the rise? Which stone is the impost? Things like that. That morning at school, Professor Penn had discussed the events in the news, how armies of Arky Romani were on the march to protect the city. The playground had other small inanimati in it. Nearby, his friends, the Cog brothers, were rolling around, balancing on each other. Arky looked up towards the sun. It was making a strong shadow of everything around him. He thought of what he had read the day before. Did you know that they say Great-Uncle Maximus lost half his colonnade in the battle with Golgothicus's army? He asked his friends. How did you know that? Peter asked. He'd been making swirls in the dirt with his beta blades, but he came over to listen next to Ivy. She had been lifting 2 of her legs into the air for short moments, practicing balancing on one leg like her cousins the phone poles. You'd know too if you had to do the homework assignments I get, Arky responded. Professor Penn says being a triumphal arch means you have to be up to the latest news. You never know when you'll be called upon to help in a heroic deed yourself. He realized he sounded a bit too proud. When I grow up, I mean, he added humbly. Don't worry, Arky, said Beta. You never know what the future will drop in on you as a surprise. Maybe a chance to be a hero will fall from the sky. I don't think there's anything in the sky today but clouds, began Ivy. But as she said this, a thin shriek pierced the air far above and a dark shadow passed over the 3 friends. They all looked up, but whatever it was that had passed between them and the sun was gone. Dust began to blow around them, and the wind suddenly rose to a howl, causing the young motivati on the playground to huddle together in fear. Arky stood tall and protected his friends from the menacing clouds of dust and debris that flew around, imagining as it were that he was a triumphal arch guarding the gates between worlds. As quickly as it had begun, the wind subsided, and the leaves being blown around settled back to earth. Arky was about to ask Ivy and Beta what that could have meant when a small metal tube twirled down from the skies and landed at his base with a hard whoomp. Arky stood for a time, examining the metal cylinder that had fallen in front of him, but it was Beta that finally bent over to pick it up. It's a communique canister, Arky, he exclaimed. Across the top of the tube was written in small print, to be opened only by the authorized recipient. That must be you, Arky, he said, since it landed at your feet. Then he proceeded to unscrew the cap. Beta, Ivy exclaimed. That should be opened by Arky. But Beta had already opened the tube. I'm sure it doesn't matter, Ivy, Arky replied, and as they watched, Beta extracted a long banner of cloth that was covered with writing. Excitedly, the three friends read the message. Letter for Arky Arch. Be at Skull Rock tonight at sundown. Do not fail me. Do not stop for anything. Signed, Uncle Trajan. Oh my gosh, Arky, gasped Ivy. It's really a message for you from your uncle. He's in trouble. Arky Arch studied the gold cloth strip with the blue writing. Woohoo! It's a royal communique, all right, he concluded. My uncles use them when they're far apart. Uncle Trajan is the strongest of them all. If he's in trouble, then all the archers are in danger. We'll come with you, Arky, offered Beta. We can be of good use, right, Ivy? We won't let you go off on your own anyway, Arky. It's too dangerous. Let's meet at the edge of town just before it's time. Skull Rock is not too far if we don't get stopped by the city gate guards. The school was closing, so the three friends parted ways and went home under turbulent skies. Arky kept the banner message inside his entablature. Not even his friends knew the many things he hid there. He was careful to put the message away when no one was around. The night was coming on fast as the three adventurers met at Skull Rock, just outside the city wall. Small inanimati like them could slip past the guards unnoticed, but it was risky nonetheless. Wolves and wild things roamed outside in the dark woods, hunting lost superflui, and any thing was welcome prey to them. A dark field of grass and weeds stretched in front of Skull Rock like a velvet blanket. Peter was having problems moving through it as his blades became entangled in the foliage. I wish my great-aunt Thresher was here. She's a combine harvester and would know how to deal with this jungle, he complained. Shh! Quiet, Peter! Ivy hissed at him. The young inanimati crouched beneath the stone bonehead. Arky wished he had a light with them and suddenly remembered something. Oh, shucks! I left my backpack Zyno in the classroom. Ivy shook her tower. Too late to get it now, Arky. I think I feel something happening. Slowly, the breeze began to stir, and within minutes a crackle of electric sparks was seen tracing spidery lines in the dancing air. The breeze turned to a gusting blast of cold air, forcing Beta to wind his blades back into the grass, and Ivy to spread her thin pylons as far apart as she could for stability. Even Arky had to lean into the blasting air, not to be pushed over. Woohoo! It's the Chronoflux! Shouted Arky above the wailing wind. My uncles can ride that to anywhere and any time! As if in response, a glow of light hovered about them, and with a bright flash, a ring of towering triumphal archers appeared from out of nowhere all around them. They hovered a moment in the air, and then the 7 great stone structures dropped as one into the hard soil of the field with a loud and dusty crash. The 3 friends stood up and were seen by the giant triumphal archers. Arky, the tallest one called, you made it. Who are your companions? Hello, Uncle Trajan, Arky responded. These are Ivy and Beta, my friends who've come with me to help. What can we do? The ring of archers suddenly closed in on them, and the large arch bent over and looked at the 3 friends skeptically. It walked a circle around them as if trying to assess the situation. Beta and Ivy moved in response, keeping Arky between themselves and the gigantic arch. Suddenly, it rose back on its legs and called out a command to his brethren. Stand fast, arch bloodlines. I perceive them to be true souls in our course, and must be allowed to join our messenger on his journey. Messenger? The young companion said in one voice. Woohoo! Added Arky enthusiastically and a bit too loud. They all stared at him, so he quietly said, woohoo? Trajan nodded as he knelt down beside them. Yes, Arky, it is so. I have called you to join us because only an arch small enough to pass through the lines of the enemy can be of service. Your friends can help. You must excuse our caution, but even the communique tube we sent you was chased by enemy agents. Arky remembered the screeching shadow and nodded. The war with the Gothics is going badly, nephew. Our centuries of training as Arky Romani are of no use against this enemy. Golgothicus has allied himself with thousands of clay blocks who obey his every command. They appear on the battlefield in the night as a simple structure. We thought it a ruse, but every skirmishing squad sent into it never returned. When daylight came, instead of this building were a row upon row of enormous walls of these bricks, called muri. Our forces were overwhelmed. Mindless masses of marching masonry, eh? Said Beta to Ivy. Shh, she hissed back. Be quiet and listen. The big archers floated again, taking up guard positions around Trajan as he moved closer to Arky. He offered another metal tube to him. "Take this, nephew," Trajan was saying. "I will load you with the battle plans for our coming conflict with the Gothics. On the other side of time and space, the reserve legions of Colosseo Pompeii stand ready to aid us. You must travel to them with this information and bring them into the conflict at just the right time and place. Too soon, and they will be destroyed by Golgothicus. Too late, and we ourselves may no longer be there to meet them." Arky turned away from the others to hide this metal tube with the other. He was thrilled to be called upon to such an important assignment. "How will we get there?" he asked. "I don't know how to handle the chronoflux myself." "My trusted assistant will guide you," Trajan explained, and a shiny metal block made of strangely scored metal bars appeared from between his columns to float in front of the giant triumphal arch. "This is Calculus Piegatus, who comes from a line of devices that are one of the oldest family in the realm of the Inanimati." Arky and his friends watched in amazement as the metal block glowed in the dim light, hovering in front of Trajan. Then, with a buzz of clicking sounds, the metal bars unfolded into a series of strange shapes right in front of them. "Calculus Piegatus will be your guide through the chronoflux," Trajan continued, as the bars came together to make a perfect star shape. "You must be careful in how you deal with—" Trajan never got a chance to finish explaining, because at that moment a loud "Rrrk" pierced the glowing darkness and a flapping black stone dragon sailed into their midst. It lunged at Calculus Piegatus, attempting to grab the glowing bars in its beak as the archers jumped back in surprise. "A gargoyle!" exclaimed Trajan. "The enemy is near. These vile things perch with the Gothics. It's trying to steal Calculus." "I'll save it," shouted Peter as he lunged at the star that was still floating in the air before them. "Get away, you devil bat!" shouted Arky, dodging a swipe of the slashing claws and blocking its lunges with his body. "Help him, Ify!" The evil-looking gargoyle had managed to grab the star shape in its beak, but Beta was holding fast onto the shape in front of it. The star shape was quickly being deformed into another shape, the joints clicking angrily at the struggling combatants tugging at it. "Wait!" exclaimed Trajan. "Don't allow it to be forced into a circle!" But that is exactly what was happening to Calculus Piegatus. First it became a pointed box, then a spiral. At each change it clicked louder and grew shinier and seemed to actually glow with a light of its own from within. The gargoyle was pulling at it hard. It was almost a circle now. "Hold on, Beta," Ify called, and she twisted like an eel between the thrashing bodies. The slender little tower entwined herself about Beta's legs just as he was being pulled into the new shape that Calculus Piegatus was becoming. With a crash, the stone dragon was knocked loose from the metal bars by a mighty blow from Trajan. A second large arch had broken its tail with a stomp of its pedestal. It flopped off into the darkness, screeching. Calculus Piegatus had just reached the shape of a seven-sided ring when it snapped free from the giant bat-like stone monster. Beta toppled backwards over Ify into Arky, pulling it with him over their heads. For a split second, the glowing bars hovered above them, its clicks becoming a buzzing sound that grew louder until with a final woohoo from Arky and a metallic snap from Piegatus, all three friends and the metal bars vanished into the darkness.